Alright, what's up, guys? It is cold here today. There's a bunch of snow outside my apartment building. Speaking of snow, speaking of ice, we're going to talk about ice hockey. So, for all of you that know, a couple weeks ago I put out a video talking about why I thought that I should say thought, because the Stanley Cup Finals obviously hasn't happened yet. It's January. The Stanley Cup Finals will probably start in early June. I was thinking though the Stanley Cup Finals might be Wild versus Islanders, connected to the Quinn Hughes trade, kind of connected to the ice raids as well in Minnesota. However, one thing I was thinking the Stanley Cup Finals would start on Wednesday, June 3rd, because last year it started on Wednesday, June 4th. So I was like, it's probably going to start on Wednesday, June 3rd this year. However, we just got news. When was this? I think they just announced this the other day, right? Yeah, January 20th, so 4 days ago. They announced that the NBA Finals would start on Wednesday, June 3rd instead of its normal Thursday. So that probably means, I'm going to look at the calendar here. That probably means the Stanley Cup Final is going to start on Tuesday, June 2nd. That's my thought right now. The Stanley Cup Final is probably going to start on Tuesday, June 2nd. That will be the 153rd day of the year. Do you see here? Tuesday, June 2nd, the 153rd day of the year. Where was I? Kennedy Curse. Well, it doesn't equal 140, but equals 144 and 54. Just like Jesuit Order. And Jesuit Order's got that 153. Okay? The Stars and the Sabres played on New Year's Eve in Dallas. And the Sabres won 4-1, like how Dallas equals 41. So from that game until the likely start date of the Stanley Cup Finals is 153 days later. It's also a span of 154. Remember, 201 is the 154th composite number. And remember that 201 is the 63rd semi-prime. And JFK was assassinated in Dallas in 63, and Kennedy Curse equals 63. As does Buffalo, and that was where the previous presidential assassination happened. That was McKinley in 1901, I believe. Okay, but speaking of 153, let's see, I actually may have not gotten I need to put up a new tab here. Okay, let's do Stars playoff record since 1994. You're going to see that the Stars currently have 137 playoff wins since 1994 when they moved to Dallas. That means if they get 16 more, they will get to 153. And 137 is significant for a number of reasons. But just looking here, 137 is the 33rd prime number, okay? JFK was assassinated in Dealey Plaza. If I can find it here. Dealey Plaza, here. This is where JFK was assassinated. You'll see it's named after George Dealey. George Dealey was a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. The Dallas Stars right now are in their 33rd season in Dallas. The Cowboys, who are the other team here in the DFW area that has a star as their main logo, they won the Super Bowl over Buffalo in their 33rd season. That was Super Bowl 27. As you see here, XXVII, 20, 25, 26, 27. You see there, Kennedy Curse equals 144 and 54. So JFK is 27, as you see there. All right. Kennedy Curse 144 and 54. Something I've talked about a bunch of times before is that the day of this game, which was January 31st, 1993, that had 144 and 54 date numerology. and they ended up winning with 69 total points. They won by 35 points, like how JFK was the, where is it? Like how JFK was the 35th president. Catholic equals 35. Those just steps from Interstate 35. And of course, Interstate 35 goes up to Minnesota, where the Stars moved from. And then Lyndon B. Johnson's vice president was also from Minnesota as well. But anyways, yeah, 69. Like, where's our Jesuit order? It's must be, sorry, it's not Jesuit order. The Jesuit order. 69 right there. And the 201, like how earlier this, or I should say last year, the Stars were eliminated by the Oilers on JFK's birthday, and the Oilers got their 201st playoff win all time, winning by the score of 6-3. Okay. So we've established that. Oh, but I wanted to continue with the Cowboys point. So that was their 33rd season. And also, JFK was the first Catholic president. Catholics got that 35 right there. But yeah, then they ended up meeting the next year as well in the Super Bowl. And if we take the date numerology of that game, it's also 144 and 54. Just like Kennedy Curse. Okay? And then the that's the wrong tab. Where is it? Did I already close it? I did not. Okay, here it is. The final, as I've talked about in a couple of videos, the final was on June 19th, but it was actually, the game really ended on June 20th because it went past midnight. June 20th, 1999. It also had 144 and 54 date numerology, okay? And that was against Buffalo. Okay. So we've talked about the Cowboys, and we've talked about the 1999 Cup Final. But now what? So as I said earlier, they met on December 31st, 153 days potentially before the start of the Stanley Cup Final. They'll also play one more time on 15/4. April 15th, or the 15th of April, the day's written 15/4, like how I talked about how that first game between the two teams could be a span of 154 days before game one of the Stanley Cup Final. Okay? So the Stars, hold on. So I mentioned this, I've talked about this before. When the Stars beat the Sabres to win the Cup in 99, they became 10-6 against them since moving to since moving to Dallas. 106 is the 35th semi-prime, just like Catholic, like how JFK was president number 35. But hang on, here it is. Okay. So as I said, they have one more game against them this year. And I'm not sure yet if they're going to win that game or not. But what's important to know is that if these two teams end up meeting each other in the finals, the Stars will either have 30 or 31 total wins against them since moving to Dallas. And then if they end up winning 4 more in the Stanley Cup Final, they'll have 34 or 35. 35, of course, is important. I've already talked about that. 34 is also important, though, because if we look at when they won the Stanley Cup Final, if you add up all the scores, you'll see the Stars outscored them 13-9. Okay? 2 plus 4 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. Plus 2 is 11. Plus 2 is 13. So 13 for the Stars. 3 plus 2 is 5. 6. 8. Still 8. And then 9. 13-9. Or 139. Just go to here. 139 is the 34th prime number. The Jesuits were founded in 1534. And they were founded in 1534 because they were opposed to the 95 Theses. Remember, 95 is the 34th semi-prime. JFK's wife was 34 years old when her husband was assassinated, and she ended up dying on the 139th day of the year, the 34th prime. In the Stanley Cup Final, where is it? It's not there. Here it is. In the Stanley Cup Final, the game-winning goal was scored by Brett Hull, and Brett Hull would have been 34 years old. He was 34 years old at the time. I've talked about this before. It was 7 weeks and 1 day before his 35th birthday. Oh, I guess I already got rid of it. But Catholic, 71 and 35. He was still 34 at the time, though. Yeah, I mean, the 34-year-old scores the game-winning goal to make the series 13-9. The 139 is the 34th prime. Come on. And then also right after this, JFK Jr. died in a plane crash, and I just found this out the other day. They said at about 9:41. 9:41, that's 139 minutes before midnight. I mean, like, what are the odds of that? So his mom dies on the 139th day of the year, and then he dies 139 days, or 139 minutes before midnight. And he crashed on 16/7, but the news didn't break until 17/7. Where's our the Jesuit Order 177? JFK also was assassinated 177 days. Is either 177 days before? Yeah, I think it was 177 days after his birthday. If we just check here, just to make sure. May 29th to November 22nd. Let's just put in those days here because I don't remember at the top of my head. May 29, 1963 to 11/22, 1963 is 177 days. Yes, that's correct. Okay. And then he died a span of, maybe it wasn't a span. No, it was just, he died exactly 27 weeks before his birthday. Like how JFK equals 27. We already talked about that. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention is last year, the Stars finished their 58th season with 59 total wins. And just so you know, it's their 58th season. And then they won 4 plus 4, that's 8, plus 1, that's 9. So they won 50 plus, and they won 59 games in the regular season plus playoffs last year. The last ever president of Texas before it became part of the United States, he died in 1858 at the age of 59. And remember, Freemasonry is right there. Freemasonry 58 and 59. Freemasonry also 139, like how we just talked about 139 just a minute ago. And remember, Dealey Plaza was named after a Freemason. If I can find that, Dealey Plaza. 33rd degree free. Oh, no, it's on here. Sorry. 33rd degree Freemason, Scottish Rite Mason. Okay, hold on. I lost my train of thought. I was talking about, yes. Okay, I remember now. So he died at age 50 or age 59 in 58. He was also born on 20/1. The current governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, he was inaugurated on 20/1 as well. Remember, Texas became a state on 12/29. 1229 is the 201st prime number. So he must have. So he was in office on 12/29, 1845, when Texas officially became a state. I guess everything kind of withdrew a couple months later. Okay, anyways, back to the Stars. So this year is their 59th or 58th season, depending on if you count the lockout as a season or not. But okay, I wanted to get back to, because this is actually something I missed earlier. So as I said, Dealey, 33rd degree Mason. The Buffalo Sabres currently have 124 playoff wins. So if they make it to the finals, they'll get 12. That's 136. And then if they get one more, they'll get to 137. Like how the Stars, wherever it went, did I not? Like how the Stars currently have 137 playoff wins since moving to Dallas. And what's very interesting is, so you see Buffalo's got that 126 and 63. But 126 is important. So we're thinking if the Stanley Cup Finals starts on June 2nd, that would be game 1. Game 2 would be on the 4th. Then they'll take 2 days off. Game 3 would be on the 7th. Game 4 would be on the 9th. Then they'll take 2 more days off. Game 5 would be on the 12th. I think they would just do, every game would just be a day before the next NBA Finals game. But anyways, that final day would be 12/6 would be game 5 is what I'm thinking. Yeah, so that would be just the day before game 5 of the NBA Finals. Buffalo equals 126. So that would make a lot of sense for them for the season to end then. That would be in game 5. But okay, I remember what I was going to mention now. From the time that they played each other on New Year's Eve until what I'm thinking is going to be game 1, it was 21 weeks and 6 days before game 1. At least what I'm thinking game 1 is going to be of the Stanley Cup Finals. Remember, 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. 216, the 6th cube. Yep, it's 6 times 6 times 6. And remember, 666 is the 36th triangular number, just like Buffalo equals 36. Buffalo NY, or is it? Maybe it's Buffalo New York. Buffalo New York equals 66, just like number of the beast. Remember the guy who scored the game-winning goal in the Stanley Cup Final that back in '99 was Brett Andrew Hull, whose name also equals 66, and he was born exactly 1 year after JFK's infant son passed away. Patrick Kennedy, 156. And yeah, that was on August 9th, the day leaving 144 days left in the year. Yeah, and that was also... Nope, that's not it. Did I close it already? Here it is. This was also... It was in Game 6, and the game ended in the 6th period, and it was the Stars' 6th season in Dallas. So that was a huge 666 ritual. But it'll be interesting because if it does go to Game 6, so again, the game 5 would be June 12th, or the 12th of June. Game 6 would be Monday, the 15th of June. Patrick Kennedy equals 156. That is the... What day of the year is that? It's the 166th day of the year. This would be the 163rd day of the year, 38th prime number. 202. Does that George H... Yeah, that is George H.W. Bush's birthday. Like that's when the Mavericks won the title. They won it on that day. Back in 2011. Well, we need some. There's still more time. There's what, almost 4 months, more than 4 months until the start of the Stanley Cup Finals. So we got a lot of time. What are the standings even looking like right now? Because I think the Stars and the Wild, I'm sure they're still, they're tied up right now. So if they play each other in the first round, I honestly think the winner of that series is going to go on to win the Stanley Cup, or at least represent the West in the Stanley Cup final. Because I talked about the significance. Remember, there's that Wild Islanders game from January 10th. And January 10th until the start of the Stanley Cup final, well, it's 143 days, it's a span of 144 days. So we'll see where they're going with that. I want to see if 143 is significant at all. It's the 48th semi-prime. That's interesting because wild equals 48. But it's interesting because the Stars coach is Glenn, if I can remember how to spell his name. I think that's how you spell his name. His current playoff record is 0-4. So if the Stars lose in 7 in the first round to the Wild, his playoff record will be 3-8. And the Wild have 36 playoff wins right now. They would get their 40th playoff win. Stars equals 40. Minnesota equals 38. So it would make a lot of sense for the Wild to win that in 7, but it's still pretty early out right now. But yeah, I'm thinking whoever wins that Stars Wild series is going to at least represent the West in the Cup final. And then, from the East, so the two teams thinking right now is Sabres and Islanders. We'll see, because I feel like they will go with a Minnesota or Texas versus New York thing, because that would be a JFK Catholic Jesuit connection, and Trump connection too, in a way. But yeah, as I said, there's still a lot of time left. Those are just my thoughts as of now, and we'll catch you guys later.